A desperate proposal. The autumn rain hammered against the windows of the small coffee shop in Greenwich Village as Olivia Bennet stared at the overdue rent notice on her phone. 28 years old, drowning in design school debt, and watching her dream of running her own interior design studio circle the drain. She had exactly 3 days before her landlord started eviction proceedings. "You look like you could use some good news," a warm voice said above her. Olivia looked up to find her former college roommate, Jennifer Park, standing beside her table with a mysterious smile and a tall, impeccably dressed man beside her. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Olivia's monthly rent, and his dark eyes held an intelligence that made her suddenly self-conscious about her paint-splattered jeans. "Jen, this is really not a good time," Olivia began. But Jennifer was already sliding into the chair across from her, gesturing for the man to sit as well. "Olivia, this is Daniel Montgomery. Daniel, meet the most talented designer I know, and my best friend since freshman year," Jennifer said with an enthusiasm that immediately put Olivia on guard. "And before you say anything, just hear him out. I promise this is going to sound crazy, but it might actually solve both your problems." Daniel extended his hand across the table. His grip was firm but gentle, and Olivia noticed the calluses that suggested he did more than just sign documents all day. "It's nice to meet you, Olivia. Jennifer has told me a lot about you. Wish I could say the same," Olivia replied, more sharply than she intended. "But I have no idea what's going on here." The unusual offer. Daniel glanced at Jennifer, who nodded encouragingly, then turned his full attention to Olivia. "I'm going to be direct because I respect your time. I need to get married, and I'm prepared to pay very well for it." Olivia nearly choked on her coffee. "Excuse me. Let me explain," Daniel said quickly, his voice calm and measured. "My company is expanding into Europe, specifically partnering with firms in Italy and France. The visa situation is complicated, and having an American spouse would simplify everything tremendously. I'm not looking for anything romantic or even particularly personal. Just a legal arrangement that benefits both of us." "You want to buy a wife?" Olivia said flatly. "I want to hire someone for a specific role with clear terms and generous compensation," Daniel corrected. 2 years of appearing together at necessary events, maintaining the appearance of a marriage for legal purposes, and then an amicable divorce. You'd live independently, have your own space, and receive a monthly payment that Jennifer tells me would be considerably more than you're currently making. Olivia looked at Jennifer, who was nodding vigorously. "Liv, I know how this sounds, but Daniel is a good guy. I've worked for his company for 3 years, and he's always been fair and honest with everyone. And you need help. I know you don't want to admit it, but you're about to lose everything you've worked for." The words stung because they were true. Olivia had poured her heart and soul into her small design studio. But the reality of New York real estate and fierce competition had crushed her slowly but surely. She had exactly $800 in her bank account and debts that kept her awake at night. "How much are we talking about?" she asked quietly. Daniel didn't hesitate. $15,000 a month for 2 years? Plus, I'll cover any expenses related to maintaining appearances. A clothing allowance for events, and a bonus of $100,000 at the end if everything goes smoothly. Olivia's mind raced through the math. That was more than enough to save her studio, pay off her crushing student loans, and actually have breathing room for the first time in years. It was also completely insane. The chemistry beneath the contract, why me? Olivia asked, studying Daniel's face. "Surely you know plenty of women who would jump at this offer." A slight smile crossed Daniel's features. "That's exactly why not them. Jennifer showed me your work, your portfolio. You're passionate about what you do. You're independent, and you have something to build. This would be a business transaction for both of us, not someone hoping to turn it into something else." "And what happens if one of us meets someone we actually want to be with?" Olivia challenged. "The contract would include provisions for discretion," Daniel explained. "We'd maintain public appearances, but your private life would be your own. Though I'd ask for advance notice if you plan to pursue any serious relationships, just to manage the optics." Olivia looked between them, her practical side warring with every instinct that told her this was ridiculous. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," Daniel said, pulling out a business card and writing on the back. "That's my personal number. But I do need an answer within 48 hours. My lawyers are ready to draft the paperwork as soon as you agree." After he left, Olivia turned to Jennifer with wide eyes. "You're seriously suggesting I marry a complete stranger?" "I'm suggesting you accept a business opportunity that could change your life," Jennifer replied gently. "Liv, I've watched you kill yourself trying to make your studio work. This could give you the resources to actually succeed. And honestly, Daniel's not bad to look at. There are worse people to pretend to be married to." That night, Olivia lay awake in her tiny apartment, listening to sirens and her neighbor's television through the thin walls. She thought about her parents who had sacrificed so much for her education, about the designs sitting in her portfolio that no one would ever see because she couldn't afford to take, on projects that didn't pay immediately, about the crushing weight of debt that made it hard to breathe sometimes by morning. She had made her decision, the ceremony that changed everything 2 weeks later. Olivia stood in front of a judge at City Hall, wearing a simple cream dress she had found at a vintage shop in Brooklyn. Daniel had offered to buy her something expensive, but she had refused. Wanting to maintain some sense of reality in this surreal situation, Daniel looked nervous for the first time since she had met him, adjusting his tie repeatedly as they waited for their turn. "You okay?" She whispered, "Are you?" He countered, and they shared a smile that felt unexpectedly genuine. The ceremony was brief and businesslike, exactly what Olivia had expected. Jennifer and Daniel's assistant served as witnesses, both trying unsuccessfully to hide their excitement. When the judge asked them to exchange rings, Daniel slipped a simple platinum band on her finger that fit perfectly. "How did you know my size?" she whispered. Jennifer helped, he admitted, and something about that small consideration touched her more than she wanted to admit. "You may kiss the bride," the judge announced, and Olivia felt her heart skip a beat. They had discussed this moment, agreeing it should be brief and appropriate. But when Daniel's lips touched hers, something unexpected happened. It was meant to be quick, formal, meaningless. Instead, time seemed to slow down. The kiss was soft and gentle, but there was an electric current running beneath it that made Olivia's breath catch. When they pulled apart, Daniel's eyes held surprise that probably mirrored her own. "Well," he said quietly, "that was unexpected." Outside City Hall, autumn leaves swirled around them as they posed for a few photos that would serve as evidence of their marriage if needed. Daniel kept his hand on the small of her back, a touch that felt both professional and somehow intimate. "So, what happens now?" Olivia asked as they walked toward where his car was waiting. "Now," Daniel said, and there was something in his voice that made her look up at him. "We go on our honeymoon." Olivia stopped walking. "What?" "That wasn't part of the agreement." "I know," Daniel said, turning to face her fully. "But if anyone looks into this, it would seem strange if we didn't take any kind of trip. I was thinking maybe just a weekend somewhere quiet." Jennifer, who had been following behind them, cleared her throat. Actually, Daniel's assistant mentioned something about Italy. Daniel shot her a look that suggested this was not how he had planned to bring this up. "I have a business meeting in Positano next week. I thought perhaps you could come along. We could make it look like a honeymoon." "Separate rooms, of course?" "Just for appearances." Olivia studied his face, trying to read the expression there. There was something he was not saying, something that made her wonder if this was really just about appearances. But she had agreed to this arrangement, and he was right that a honeymoon would make everything look more legitimate. "Okay," she said finally, "but I've never been to Europe. You'll have to be patient with me." The smile that broke across Daniel's face was worth any awkwardness she was feeling. "I think I can manage that." As his car pulled away from the curb, Olivia looked down at the ring on her finger, catching the light. She had agreed to this for practical reasons, to save her career and pay her debts. It was supposed to be simple and straightforward, but that kiss had been neither simple nor straightforward. And the way Daniel looked at her when he thought she was not paying attention suggested that maybe, just maybe, this arrangement was going to be far more complicated than either of them had anticipated. 3 days later, as they boarded a first-class flight to Italy, Olivia could not shake the feeling that she had just stepped into a story whose ending she could not possibly predict. And for the first time in years, that uncertainty did not terrify her. Instead, It felt almost like hope. Arrival in paradise, the Amalfi Coast stretched before them like a painting come to life. Olivia pressed her face against the car window as their driver navigated the winding coastal roads, each turn revealing another breathtaking view of turquoise water meeting dramatic cliffs. Colorful houses clung to the hillsides like determined flowers, and the scent of lemon groves filled the warm Mediterranean air. "It's incredible," she whispered. Barely aware she had spoken aloud, Daniel looked up from his phone, where he had been responding to emails during most of the drive from Naples. When he saw her expression of pure wonder, something softened in his face. "You've really never traveled outside the United States?" "My family barely traveled outside of Ohio," Olivia admitted, still drinking in the scenery. "My dad worked at a manufacturing plant, and my mom was a school secretary. Europe was something we saw in movies, not somewhere we could actually go." She caught a flicker of something in Daniel's expression, regret perhaps, or understanding. "Then I'm glad your first time is here. Positano is special." The hotel was perched on a cliff overlooking the sea, a converted monastery with stone walls covered in flowering vines. As they walked through the entrance, Olivia felt like she had stepped into another world. Everything was elegant but comfortable, luxurious without being ostentatious. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery," the manager greeted them warmly. "We have your honeymoon suite ready. It has the best view in the entire hotel." Olivia opened her mouth to correct him, to explain they needed separate rooms, but Daniel spoke first. "Actually, there seems to be a confusion. We booked 2 rooms." The manager's face fell. "Oh, I'm so sorry. But I'm afraid we only have the 1 reservation for the honeymoon suite. And with the festival this week, we are completely full. There are no other rooms available, not just here, but anywhere in Positano." Olivia and Daniel exchanged glances. She could see the same calculation happening in his eyes that was running through her mind. They could try to find accommodations in another town, but that would draw attention and questions. Or they could handle this like adults. "How big is the suite?" Daniel asked carefully. "Very spacious, sir. There is a separate sitting area with a sofa, and the bedroom has a king bed. Also a private terrace overlooking the water." Daniel turned to Olivia, his voice low. "We can make this work. I'll take the sofa. Or we can try to find somewhere else, if you're uncomfortable." Olivia thought about the contract they had signed, about the practical arrangement they had agreed to. But she also thought about that unexpected kiss at City Hall, about the way her heart had jumped when his hand touched her back, about how she had caught herself watching him during the flight, when she thought he was asleep. "The suite is fine," she said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. "We're both adults. We can handle sharing a space for a few days." The first evening, the suite was even more beautiful than Olivia had imagined. French doors opened onto a terrace with a view that took her breath away. The sea sparkled in the afternoon sun, and she could hear the distant sound of church bells and laughter floating up from the town below. "I'm going to shower, and then I have a conference call," Daniel said, setting down their luggage. "But afterward, would you like to get dinner? There's a small restaurant I know, nothing fancy. Just incredible food and a view you won't forget." "That sounds perfect," Olivia replied, still mesmerized by the terrace. While Daniel was occupied, Olivia unpacked her modest suitcase, hanging her few dresses in the massive closet next to Daniel's expensive suits. The contrast felt like a metaphor for their entire situation. 2 completely different worlds trying to share the same space. She changed into a simple blue sundress and wandered onto the terrace, letting the warm breeze play with her hair. Below, the town was coming alive for the evening, lights beginning to twinkle as the sun started its descent toward the horizon. "You look beautiful." Olivia turned to find Daniel standing in the doorway, changed into linen pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Without his usual business attire, he looked younger, more relaxed. "More real, thank you," she said, feeling a blush rise to her cheeks. "You clean up pretty well yourself." He smiled and offered his arm. "Shall we?" Dinner by the Sitha restaurant was tucked into the cliffside, accessible only by a steep stone staircase that had Olivia grateful for Daniel's steadying hand. Tables were scattered across a terrace that seemed to hang in the air above the water, lit by strings of soft lights and candles and glass votives. "How did you find this place?" Olivia asked as they were seated at a table right at the edge, the sea breeze ruffling the white tablecloth. I came here 5 years ago, Daniel said, accepting a wine list from their server. After my engagement ended, I needed to get away from everything. Clear my head. A friend recommended Positano, and I stumbled on this restaurant by accident. It was the first time he had mentioned his past relationship. Olivia found herself curious, despite knowing she probably should not be. Jennifer mentioned you were engaged before. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. Daniel poured them both wine, his movements deliberate. Her name was Rebecca. We met at a charity gala, dated for 2 years. I thought we wanted the same things, but it turned out she wanted the lifestyle my money could provide, not actually me. When I found out she was cheating with someone from her social circle, someone who could give her more status, more connections, it broke something in me. I'm sorry, Olivia said softly. Don't be, Daniel replied, meeting her eyes. It taught me that I needed to be more careful about who I let into my life. That's part of why this arrangement with you made sense. No false expectations, no pretending to feel things that aren't real. Olivia took a sip of wine, trying to ignore how those words stung slightly. What about you? Daniel asked. Jennifer mentioned someone from college. Trevor, Olivia said with a rueful smile. We dated for 3 years. He was studying architecture, and I thought we were perfect together, both artists, both dreamers. But when he got a job offer in Los Angeles after graduation, he wanted me to come with him and give up my plans for my own studio. When I said no, he told me I was being selfish and unrealistic, that I would never make it on my own. He was wrong, Daniel said with conviction. I've seen your portfolio, Olivia. You have real talent, a unique vision. You just need the resources to showcase it properly. The waiter arrived with their first course, fresh pasta with local seafood that smelled incredible. As they ate, the conversation flowed easily, moving from past hurts to present dreams. Olivia told Daniel about the projects she wanted to take on, the sustainable designs that incorporated local materials and respected architectural heritage. Daniel talked about his company's expansion, but also about his desire to create something meaningful, not just profitable. My father started the company with nothing, Daniel said as they shared a dessert of lemon sorbet. He immigrated from Ireland with $500 and a fierce determination to build something. When he died, I was terrified I would let him down, that I would fail everyone who depended on the company. I've spent the last 8 years proving I could do it, but somewhere along the way, I forgot why I was doing it. What brought you back? Olivia asked, leaning forward. This place, actually, Daniel said, gesturing to the restaurant around them. Sitting here 5 years ago, watching the fishermen come in with their catch. Seeing how this community has maintained its traditions while adapting to change. It reminded me that business should serve people, not the other way around. Olivia looked at him in the candlelight, seeing past the wealthy entrepreneur to the man underneath. That's beautiful, she said. And rare. Their eyes met across the table, and Olivia felt that same electric current from their wedding kiss. The air seemed charged with possibility, something neither of them had planned for. The boat trip the next morning. Daniel surprised her by saying his business meetings had been postponed. The investors want to meet tomorrow instead, he explained, as they had breakfast on their terrace. So, we have the whole day. I thought maybe we could take a boat out, explore some of the coastline. If you want to, that is. I'd love that, Olivia said, meaning it completely. The boat was small, but beautiful. A traditional wooden vessel operated by a local captain named Antonio, who spoke passionate English mixed with Italian. As they pulled away from the shore, Olivia stood at the bow, letting the spray mist her face, now feeling more free than she had in years. Daniel came to stand beside her, close enough that their arms brushed. Having fun? This is amazing, she said, turning to him with a smile that felt impossibly wide. Thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for coming, he replied. And there was something in his voice that made her heart skip. They explored hidden coves and swam in crystal clear water. Antonio took them to a small beach, accessible only by boat, where they had a picnic lunch of fresh bread, cheese, and fruit. Olivia tried to capture the beauty with her phone camera, but nothing could quite convey the magic of the place. Come here, Daniel called from where he stood at the water's edge. I want to show you something. She joined him, and he pointed to a cluster of rocks jutting from the water. See those? Legend says that if two people swim out there together and make a wish, the sea will grant it. Do you believe in legends? Olivia asked, studying his profile. I believe in taking chances, he replied, turning to look at her. Want to try? They swam out together, the water cool and refreshing. When they reached the rocks, both slightly breathless, they held on to the smooth stone and looked at each other. What did you wish for? Olivia asked. If I tell you it won't come true, Daniel said. But his eyes held hers with an intensity that made her shiver despite the warm sun. What about you? Same rule applies, she replied, but inside. Her wish was echoing. Let this be real. Let him feel what I'm starting to feel. On the swim back, a strong current caught Olivia off guard. She tried to fight it, but felt herself being pulled sideways, away from the beach. Panic started to rise in her chest. Daniel was beside her in seconds, his arms strong around her waist. Don't fight it. Let it carry us, and we'll angle back in. She trusted him, relaxing into his hold as he guided them safely back to shore. When they finally reached shallow water, she was trembling, and Daniel pulled her close, his hands stroking her wet hair. You're safe, he murmured against her temple. I've got you. Olivia tilted her face up to thank him and found his lips inches from hers. Time seemed to stop as they stared at each other, water dripping from their bodies, hearts pounding from more than just exertion. Olivia, Daniel whispered, his voice rough with emotion. I know we said this was just business, but I need you to know something. From the moment I saw you in that coffee shop, looking so fierce and proud despite everything you were going through, I knew you were different. This trip, being here with you, it's making it impossible to remember why we're supposed to keep this professional.
Ow.
Daniel, she breathed, her hands coming up to rest on his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing under her palms. I feel it too. I've been trying to tell myself it's just the romance of this place, but it's not. It's you. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. What do we do about this? Maybe, Olivia said softly, we stop pretending this is just a contract. When their lips met this time, there was nothing professional or businesslike about it. This kiss was full of all the longing and confusion and unexpected feeling that had been building between them. It tasted like salt water and sunlight and the promise of something neither of them had. Planned, but both desperately wanted. They returned to New York 3 weeks later. Olivia stood in the living room of her new apartment in Chelsea, one that Daniel had insisted on providing as part of their arrangement. Boxers surrounded her, half unpacked. As she tried to make sense of how her life had transformed so completely, Italy had been magical. After that kiss on the beach, they had stopped pretending their marriage was only on paper. The rest of their trip had been spent exploring the coast, talking for hours, and discovering each other in ways that felt both thrilling and terrifying. They had agreed to take things slowly when they returned home, to see if what they felt in paradise could survive in the real world. But New York had a way of complicating things. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Dinner tonight. I have something I want to show you. Before she could respond, her doorbell rang. Opening it, she found Jennifer standing there with coffee and pastries. Okay, Spill, Jennifer said, pushing past her into the apartment. You've been back for 2 days and I've barely heard from you. How is Italy? And don't give me the tourist version. I want details. Olivia sank onto her new sofa, accepting the coffee gratefully. It was incredible, Jen, and complicated. And I don't know what I'm doing. You fell for him, Jennifer said. Not quite a question. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who knows you, Jennifer smiled. So what's the problem? He clearly feels the same way based on how he looks at you. The problem, Olivia said slowly, is that we have a contract that ends in 2 years. The problem is that his world and mine are completely different. The problem is that I came into this for practical reasons, and now my heart is involved and I don't know how to protect it. Jennifer set down her coffee and took Olivia's hands. Honey, love is always a risk. Yes, you two started this unconventionally, but maybe that's not a bad thing. You got to know each other without all the usual pressure and expectations. Or maybe, Olivia countered. We fell for each other in a fantasy setting, and reality is going to wake us up hard. The ex returns that evening. Daniel picked her up in his car, something he had been doing rather than sending his driver. It was a small thing, but Olivia appreciated the gesture of normalcy. Where are we going? She asked as they drove through Manhattan. You'll see, he said with a mysterious smile. 20 minutes later, they pulled up in front of a beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn. What's this? Olivia asked, confused. Come inside, Daniel said. Helping her out of the car, he unlocked the door and led her into a stunning space with high ceilings, exposed brick, and massive windows that let in gorgeous natural light. It was completely empty, except for architectural plans laid out on the floor. Daniel, what is this? He picked up one of the plans, handing it to her. It's yours. I bought it for you. For your design studio. Olivia stared at the papers in her hands, then at the space around her, then back at Daniel. You what? I know you've been looking for the right location. Somewhere you could really build your business, Daniel explained, his words coming faster as he registered her shocked expression. This building has been on the market for months. It's perfect for what you need. The main floor could be your studio and showroom. The upper floors could be workshops or rental space for other designers. I had my architect draw up some preliminary plans based on your portfolio. Obviously, you would make all the final decisions. Daniel, I can't accept this, Olivia said, her voice shaking. This is too much. This is insane. Why? He asked, stepping closer. I have the resources. You have the talent. This is an investment in your future, is it? Olivia challenged, feeling tears prick her eyes. Or is this you, trying to control things? Trying to keep me dependent on you? Daniel looked like she had slapped him. That's not what this is at all. Then what is it? Olivia demanded, her voice rising. Because from where I'm standing, this looks like you're trying to buy me, just like you bought this marriage. The words hung in the air between them, cruel and cutting. Daniel's face closed off, becoming the professional mask she had seen that first day in the coffee shop. I see, he said coldly. I apologize for overstepping. The building is already purchased, but I'll transfer it to a trust for you with no strings attached. You can do with it what you want. Turned and walked toward the door, and panic seized Olivia's chest. Daniel, wait. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. But he was already gone. The misunderstanding for 3 days, Daniel didn't call or text. Olivia tried reaching out, but her messages went unanswered. Jennifer told her he had thrown himself into work, barely leaving his office. On the 4th day, Olivia was meeting with a potential client at a coffee shop when she saw him. Daniel was at a corner table with a stunningly beautiful woman, a redhead in an expensive dress who was laughing at something he said, her hand resting possessively on his arm. Olivia's world tilted. She barely heard what her client was saying, her eyes fixed on Daniel and this woman who looked like she belonged in his world in a way Olivia never would. After her meeting ended, Olivia walked home in a daze. She had been such a fool. Of course, Daniel would go back to someone from his own social circle. Their time in Italy had been a beautiful fantasy. But this was reality. She was sitting on her couch, crying into a pint of ice cream when her doorbell rang. Opening it, she found Jennifer with an angry expression. Before you write him off completely, Jennifer said, pushing her way inside, you should know that woman was Rebecca, his ex. She showed up at his office yesterday, claiming she made a mistake, that she wants him back. He met her for coffee today, to tell her firmly and finally that he had moved on. I know because I helped schedule it, and I stood nearby in case she caused a scene. Olivia felt like she could breathe again. He turned her down? Completely, Jennifer confirmed. He told her he was married and in love with his wife, his real wife, not the contract version. He said that, Olivia whispered. Word for word, Jennifer smiled. Now what are you going to do about it? The grand gesture Olivia spent the next 6 hours preparing. She called in favors from every designer, artist, and craftsperson she knew. She worked through the night, transforming the empty brownstone Daniel had given her into something extraordinary at dawn. She sent him a text. Please come to the Brooklyn address. I need to show you something. An hour later, his car pulled up. Olivia watched from the window as he got out, looking tired and cautious. Her heart ached seeing the guardedness in his expression. When he opened the door, he stopped in his tracks. The empty space had been transformed into a vision of what it could become. String lights created a warm glow. Boards displayed design concepts for the studio. In the center of the room, Olivia had created a small seating area with cushions and candles. But it was the walls that told the real story. Covering every surface were photographs and notes, a timeline of their relationship, the coffee shop where they met, their wedding at City Hall, images from Italy. Beneath each photo, Olivia had written what she was feeling in that moment. Under the wedding photo, I felt terrified, but somehow safe, Daniel read aloud, moving closer to the wall. In Italy, I started falling and couldn't stop. After the boat trip, I knew this was real. He turned to find Olivia standing in the center of the room, tears streaming down her face. I was wrong, she said, her voice shaking. When you gave me this building, I panicked because it made everything too real. All my life, I've had to fight for everything I have. Nobody just gave me things without expecting something in return. I didn't know how to accept that you might actually care about me, believe in me, without an agenda. Daniel crossed the space between them, his hands coming up to cup her face. Olivia, let me finish, she said, placing her hands over his. I saw you with Rebecca yesterday. Jennifer told me what happened, what you said to her, about being in love with your wife. Every word was true, Daniel said softly. I know we started this as a business arrangement, but somewhere between that coffee shop and that beach in Italy, it became the most real thing in my life. I fell in love with your passion, your talent, your strength. I fell in love with the way you see the world and the way you make me want to be better. I gave you this building because I believe in you, not because I want to control you or keep you dependent on me. I know that now, Olivia said, her voice breaking. And I fell in love with you too. With your kindness and your integrity and the way you see me, really see me, not just what I can offer or what I should be. Daniel asked, his forehead resting against hers. We stopped calling this a contract marriage, Olivia said, pulling back to look into his eyes. We acknowledge that this is real. We're scared and it's complicated and we started backward, but it's real. You're sure? Daniel asked, his voice vulnerable in a way she had never heard. Because if we do this, I'm all in. Not for 2 years, but for forever. I don't want to contract with an end date. I want a real marriage with you. Olivia reached into her pocket and pulled out the business contract they had both signed months ago. Slowly, deliberately, she tore it in half. No more contracts, she said. Just us, just real.
How?
Daniel kissed her then, a kiss that held nothing back. When they finally pulled apart, both were laughing and crying at the same time. So, Daniel said, looking around at the transformed space, does this mean you're accepting the building? On one condition, Olivia replied. You let me design your next project. A partnership, 50-50. I bring the creative vision, you bring the business expertise. Equal partners. Deal, Daniel said immediately, then paused. Actually, I have a counteroffer. Oh, equal partners in business, he said, pulling her close again. And equal partners in everything else. Real marriage, real partnership, real life. What do you say, Mrs. Montgomery? Olivia smiled through her tears. I say that's the best contract I've ever agreed to, Mr. Montgomery. Epilogue. 6 months later, the brownstone had been transformed into something even more beautiful than Olivia had imagined. Her design studio occupied the main floor, already featured in 2 major design magazines. The upper floors housed a collaborative workspace where emerging designers could rent affordable studios, a program Daniel had helped her establish. But today, the space was decorated for something entirely different. I can't believe we're doing this again, Jennifer said, adjusting Olivia's veil. Though this time, you actually look like a bride, Olivia laughed, smoothing down her ivory gown. This time there was nothing contractual or businesslike about her dress. It was romantic and flowing, chosen simply because it made her feel beautiful. Ready? Her father asked, appearing in the doorway. He still seemed slightly bewildered by the whirlwind of the past year. but he had come to genuinely like and respect Daniel. "More than ready," Olivia said. Taking his arm downstairs, their friends and family filled the studio space, transformed with flowers and light. But Olivia only had eyes for Daniel, standing at the front in a perfectly tailored suit, his eyes bright with emotion. This time, when the officiant asked if they took each other as husband and wife, it meant everything. This time, when they exchanged rings, they slipped them onto fingers where bands already rested, symbols of a marriage that had started as pretend, but had become the most real thing in both their lives. And this time, when Daniel kissed his bride, it was a kiss that promised forever. Not because a contract said so, but because their hearts did. "I love you," he whispered against her lips. "Today, tomorrow, and every day after." "I love you too," Olivia replied, smiling through happy tears. "My husband." For real this time, as they walked back down the aisle hand in hand. Olivia thought about that desperate morning in the coffee shop when Jennifer had introduced them. She had been looking for a solution to her financial problems. Instead, she had found a partner, a love, a life she never could have imagined. Sometimes she realized, the best things happen when you stop planning and start trusting. When you take a chance on something that seems impossible, when you let love transform a contract into a promise, a stranger into home. Their story had started with a business proposition, but it would continue as a love story. And that, Olivia thought, as Daniel pulled her close for another kiss, was the best plot twist of all.